Hello everyone, Zach here from the Carnival of Randomness on behalf of our sponsor, Opsitnik & Associates. In these unprecedented times, we reflect on our future, both in the next few weeks and months, but also the upcoming years and decades. And it's time to prepare for that future. Opsitnik & Associates has been contacted by many healthcare workers, as well as old and new clients, to prepare wills, powers of attorney, and advance directives, also called a living will. All of you need these documents. So don't say you don't have any assets to speak of, no children or other dependents. Regardless of the circumstances now, you will need a will for today and tomorrow. Al Opsitnik feels so strongly about having wills and other needed documents prepared that Opsitnik & Associates can prepare your will, power of attorney, and living will at no charge. You heard that correct. No charge until the end of 2020. No hidden fees or gimmicks. Al feels so strongly about planning for the future at this time that he is willing to assist you with your future. Trust Opsitnik & Associates, attorneys for 42 years, from the Supreme Court to Alaska and everywhere in between. You can find them online, opsitnikslaw.com, on Facebook, Opsitnik & Associates, or call them toll-free 1-866-391-3299 to prepare for your future. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and like we promised last week, Opie and I are going to start discussing the state of beer during quarantine. So Opie's joining us again. Hello, big guy. How are you?
Doing well, Z. How are you?
Oh, you know, every day's a dream.
You know it. You know it.
So the past 2 weeks we've been talking, you know, shitloads of movies and TV to kill the time, but...
While you're killing time, you got to drink something.
Well, right, exactly. You got to drink something. But what the hell? I mean, with the 3 months shutdown, obviously the beer industry took a big hit. Big hit.
Beer stores as well.
Yeah, beer stores as well. Because
there's one near me that has a massive stock of things. It's a really good beer store, but when they were looking at shutdown, it was the end of March all the way through. They knew they weren't going to open back up until mid-June, and that's a lot of dead IPAs. So, right. Because you have to think about how long they've had it to that point, and then moving forward. So what they did, like every 3.5 weeks, they did like a fire sale. And it wasn't. They were doing like IPAs, fruit beers, lagers, things like that.
Yeah, the stuff that really can't last as long as like stouts and barley wines and that.
They pulled it all off the shelves. The walls of this place are lined with all the beers, and you walk around and pick out what you want. So everything that you could buy cheap was on tables up the middle and on the bar. They took all the stools and chairs and shit out and just stacked it all up. And 12-ounce cans were $1. Anything above 12 ounces, 16 and up, was $1.50. And then you got growler fills for $15, growler included. They sell their growlers empty for $20 because they have like a metal handle and a ceramic flip top.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. Those are really nice.
So I went the first time. There was like 100 people lined up to get in this place where that wasn't a great idea, you know? And they're letting a handful of people in at a time. I filled one of those giant reusable Aldi bags and a smaller to-go bag with loose beers and bought a growler, and it was like $85.
Damn.
And I got 6 hop slams. $6. So, you know what I mean? It was they did this 4 times, and every time they would just pull more and more of the shit out to get rid of it because they didn't want to have it sitting on the shelves.
Right.
And even though they're selling it for $1, they're not making any money. They're trying to just stay afloat.
Right. They're trying to get anything at this point because even selling it at cost, at least you're not losing money.
Right.
Whereas if it sits for 2 months and you have to dump it, you know, the breweries aren't going to take it back.
No. Yeah, and then they weren't retapping. They had kegs of things that were going to go south, so you could get the keg refills really cheap. And at that point, you weren't allowed to bring your own growler because of cross-contamination. So
Right.
The first 2 rounds, they had those $20 growlers. And the second 2, they had just blank glass ones that, any brewery would have charged you $5 for.
Right, yeah.
But you were getting the beer. You were getting a $15 fill growler. And some of these beers were like $20-$30 to fill. So I felt fortunate for that. But we also did a lot of local breweries. We're doing like, you order it and they'll bring it out to your car. They'll, sell you growlers and cans, whatever they had. So like a couple of times we made a day of it, just driving around to local breweries in Cleveland and picking up a growler, some cans here and there.
See, weirdly, a lot of breweries up here actually, and even distilleries up here, they switched to making hand sanitizer for a time.
They did that too. Actually, my buddy Jason runs an auto parts store, and they received an order of hand sanitizer that was made by Sazerac Distilling.
Hey, there you go.
So at least a brand we know, you know what I mean? Like
right,
Sazerac made it. I have some made by Faber Distilling. I don't know who that is, but there was 2 places in Cleveland did that, and they donated everything. Cleveland Whiskey donated all theirs to the fire department and EMS.
You know what? Good for them.
Around town.
Big ups to Cleveland Whiskey.
No, it's better than drinking it, I guess, but their whiskey's not good.
No, but at the same time, you know what? Their heart's in the right place, and now it actually makes me pull for them to see if they get better.
If you're not familiar with Cleveland Whiskey, what they do, instead of putting whiskey in a barrel for 2 years, they chop up the barrel and they put it in the whiskey and pressure age it. So their claim is they get 4 months. In 4 months, they get 3 years of inside the barrel, and it's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes brown whiskey, but it's not.
Well,
good.
That's the thing. It makes. Didn't we try some of their stuff the one time, like their Christmas whiskey or something?
The Christmas whiskey is the only thing I'll drink. I'm a fan of Christmas flavored things, Christmas beers and things. So that's the only thing that is any good, and it covers up the fact that it's young whiskey. It's just nothing you can, It doesn't have that in and out. It's not pulling sugars like it should.
Right, and for people that don't know, the mark of what makes a really good whiskey is it has time to sit in that barrel to pull out the natural sugars and the what the hell's the actual chemical? The vanillin.
Yeah,
that's naturally in the wood, which is why a lot of whiskeys have that vanilla aroma and flavor to it because it pulls it from the wood. Obviously, the longer you leave it in, the darker it's going to get, the more flavor it's going to get. You pull it too early, it's going to be harsh as hell.
And there's a lot of things like environment that affects how often the liquid is pulled in and out of the barrel when it expands and contracts.
Right. Yeah.
And they're under controlled circumstances, so they chop up some wood. I mean, they char the wood. It's charred wood chips. They're not actually chopping up barrels. They char wood chips. And they put, they do the same thing with the level. Like there's char levels 1 to 4.
Yeah.
5, 4.
I think 4 is the highest.
I'm not an expert. I have no idea. I know a little bit, but anyway, they do that, and they throw it in this big steel vat, and they put it under pressure, and they just leave it there. They don't fluctuate the pressure, and right. It just, I don't know. And it's hot whiskey. It's hot, and it's.
Well, and the thing is, while that procedure works fairly well, it doesn't work as good as letting it do it naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can't be called bourbon. That's why it's Cleveland whiskey, because it hasn't been in a first-use American white oak charred barrel for 2 years. It's been in a stainless steel vat with chopped up burnt wood chips for 4 months. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's another thing that the non-whiskey people will probably not know. They can only use those barrels once.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of Scotch distilleries in Scotland actually buy the old whiskey barrels.
I read some numbers one time. I can't remember exactly what it is, but the majority do go to Scotland, and some of it they just they'll make things out of it. Like if you go to Buffalo Trace, you can buy things made out of their barrels, keychains, and a little arced piece of a stave that you can put your corks in for Blanton's corks. They do shit like that. They'll cut them up and put them in a bag and use them as quote smoking wood.
Yeah,
for your barbecue.
The one we went to down in the Finger Lakes, they do that. They sell smoker chips.
Yeah. Finger Lakes Distilling.
Yeah, and another good one. Don't forget, a lot of them will sell them or give them to breweries because they age their beer.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and all that. Even I think even Tabasco does that as well. They'll take old bourbon barrels.
I think so, but I'm not 100% though. But yeah, they have to use virgin barrels to make bourbon.
Yeah.
Other shit they don't, but if it's bourbon, it has to be in a new 100% American oak. Yeah, charred.
Right.
Charred. Uncharred would make it sherry, and that's gross.
Yeah.
Well, not really. That's wine, but yeah.
Well, and that trip we took down to the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky was pretty damn good because we learned a lot.
We did.
That dude, the tour guide we had at Buffalo Trace was probably one of the best tour guides in anything I've ever had.
Heard a lot about him. We were hoping to get that guy.
And we did. Freddie, yeah.
If you're ever down there, try and get on Freddie. If he's still around, he's pretty old.
Yeah, he was an older gentleman, but he might be one of those, he does it just because he loves it.
Yeah. If you can get on Freddie's tour, that's the way to go. You get a lot more out of it, as I'm told.
Yeah, because remember, he took some of the what do they call it, the white lightning or whatever. He's like, now put it in your hand. Now smack your hands together and rub it together. It's going to wake the dog up.
Well, it's you pour it in your hands and then let them shake it off, let them dry and smell it, and you smell one thing. And then if you clap your hands and then smell it, you smell another thing. Then you rub them together real fast, get some friction, a little heat going, and smell them again. You get different grains out of the white dog. So to show you the complexity of their mix. So that tour was remarkable.
Oh my God.
Of all the breweries we went to, we learned a lot there. We saw more things on the Woodford tour, but we learned more
at the Buffalo Trace tour. Freddie said, now this is normally the part where we would sit and watch a movie, but they're filling barrels, so we're going to go do that instead.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool, right?
And we got to go in and watch them fill the barrels, drain the barrels. We got to try some of the actual, the stuff the sediment that remained at the bottom. Oh, it was really cool.
That was pretty neat. Those guys were wacky, man. But yeah, speaking of rabbit holes from last week, we're supposed to be talking about beer.
Oh yeah. But it makes me wonder, do you think, how many smaller breweries do you think are actually going to be financially crippled and not be able to come back from this?
I mean, in the last 3 weeks, I've seen Facebook posts from 3 regional breweries out here outside of Cleveland that said they're not reopening.
Oh, in general, just shuttering?
Yeah, but we also had 3 open in the last 2 months.
Huh.
And I think they were building up a little bit of a clientele by selling what they already had brewed for grand openings in growler fills and stuff, so you could roll up and do it. This also got us into my local watering hole is just that. It's just a local hole in the wall bar that you'd drive right past if you were just passing through town. But they always like to keep at least one big IPA on, and it had been one local IPA, something maybe from Columbus and Columbus Brewing, and they'd have Bud Light, Miller Light, Pabst, a cider, but now they have Bud Light, either Pabst or High Life, depending on what they can get, and then the rest of it is all local IPAs.
Yeah,
they have 8 handles.
Yeah, because it's just the shit they got to get rid of, and the reason we keep bringing up IPAs is with the nature of the IPA, they don't tend to last long before the flavor really starts to dissipate.
You get about 3 months out of an IPA once it's bottled to get full flavor, and then it starts to diminish.
Yeah, it doesn't like turn rancid or anything. It's just not as good.
The bitter of the hop dies, and then it just gets sweeter and sweeter the longer it sits.
Yeah.
And while that doesn't sound awful, it's pretty awful.
Right. Well, it
It's
doesn't
sickly
sound
sweet.
awful on paper. Once you try it, you're like, yep, this is not how this is supposed to taste.
It's a sweetness that you don't want. It's not the thing you're looking for in sugary beverages.
Yeah.
You know, I've tried, like, well, this is a 10%er. We should probably drink it anyway. Nah, you can't. I mean, I drank a sip of like an Old Milwaukee from the 80s.
Woo! How'd that go for you?
It was not good. It was really, really syrupy and sweet, but I'd never pulled a pull tab before. I wanted to do it.
Oh, dude, I've
And then
never
I
done that
figured-
either, actually.
I looked in the can. I could see, it was clearish. So I was like, "Yeah, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
Sip. Wasn't great.
We remember a
But-
couple years back when we had that big beer adventure at Treasure Lake, and I brought all those like vintage bottles, and we had stuff from like the 80s and the one from like 75.
Oh, the Thomas Hardy's, yeah.
Yeah, the Thomas Hardy's from like the mid 70s, and it's like the old one tasted kind of soy sauce like, so that one had
And then-
basically passed its prime.
The other ones, there was like one from the early 70s, I think one from the 80s, and one from like the 90s.
Yeah, I think I had one from like 87 or 88 that was really good.
It went, yeah. That one was good. Had a pineapple-y kind of thing because of the yeast they used. But on the bottle of a Thomas Hardy, it says to sit for at least 10 years.
Yeah, it's like
So-
we'll reach its peak. I think they said we'll reach its peak within 18 to 20 years.
I have an 09 sitting right now. So, a couple years. We'll get there.
And that's the thing. Some old stuff really takes good to age, and other stuff not so much. Like we've had some older stouts that have been like life changing.
Oh, yeah. Not 10 years, but definitely 5, 6, 7 years. We've had a few. But at some point, you're going to start missing the peak, and you're going to start losing all the other flavors.
Well,
so.
that's the thing. Like it continues to improve up to a point, and then it'll plateau, and then it just starts to deteriorate, and then it's like, shit, you missed that window.
Right, and that you get that really easily with IPAs. They just
Their
you want
window
them
is
as fresh.
very short.
You want them as fresh as possible. They say with like heady topper, you want that within the first 2 weeks to get peak. I've had it in the first 2 weeks, and I've had it outside the first 2 weeks, and I didn't notice a difference. But
Yeah, I didn't really either. Another
I
one
don't have
like
that
that. Not just Lunch from Maine Brewery.
I've noticed some differences in those. I don't know that they were 2 weeks apart or anything, but I mean I've had some that were way tastier than others.
Oh yeah.
It could be batch, but I mean they have quality control. They're a big enough brewery to know what they're doing. But how long has it been sitting where I found it?
Well, I remember a couple years back, I went out to Ithaca Brewing for the release of one of their big sours that they don't do anymore. I think it was the Brute or the Le Bleu,
Yeah.
one of the two.
It was the Brew. Was it the one you got we've been trading that?
Yeah, I got a case of
it was
it.
the Brew.
And now I was standing in line, and there was a bunch of other people that I knew, and people were just walking up and down the line with beers and growlers of different things. Like, hey, have some of this. Like, all right. And that's when a guy I know walked by with a growler of heady topper that he had got the day before in Vermont.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, it was the first and actual only time I've ever had heady topper, but
Yeah.
it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I got mine on the black market. One in PA, one in Ohio.
Because I know for
because
a while, I think like some places in Pennsylvania could order it or treat it like it was liquor.
Yeah, wine.
Yeah, and order like up to 12 at a time.
There was a guy outside of Pittsburgh that was using his wine license to buy wine in Philly. And Philly has a different distribution, so they would drive to Philly and get it and bring it back and sell it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and then the guy that I got it from in Ohio does the same thing.
Yeah, there's a store here that does the same thing with New York City. They'll send a guy down with a van and just buy a shitload of stuff in New York that doesn't come upstate.
Yeah, there's something with a wine license or something the guy was telling me.
Well, that's when
it was really technical, and I don't remember.
That's when we started to get like all the Cascade stuff in.
Yeah.
And Cascade is good if you like sour ales.
Everybody no, not everybody does.
Not everybody does, but they should because they're quite good.
Yeah. But sours have been sitting, so we were getting a few sours, but there was beers that I'd never had in these bottle dumps they were doing, like Toppling Goliath had been sort of new to Ohio, and they were selling Pseudo Sue that they did in conjunction with the Field Museum. I'm not sure why, but it had a T-Rex on the can and shit. And I thought it was awesome. So I'm buying 16-ounce cans of this for $1.50. They're like $5 beers.
Nice.
And yeah, I would go and fill these bags up, and I would have that to drink for a couple days while we were doing. We would use like Discord to do video chats or Facebook Messenger to do video chats with our bar friends, and do shots and be social over the internet. But then when we got back out to the bars, like I said, my local guy has 8 taps, and there was only 4 beers. Like, where's all your beer? Like, well, during lockdown, they had like the bartender and his business partner were able to go to a brewery by their house and pick up kegs and bring it up, and he could sell it in the bar. They were running out of beer, and the rep couldn't get Pabst or High Life or Bud Light. They didn't have the kegs. So
well, right, because you think about it, because all these big, massive breweries, they're going to have to shut down because there's so many people in the plants.
Yeah, so that stuff started to get really limited. It's starting to come back a bit, but right now, his plan was to keep High Life and Pabst on, but at this point, he can only get one or the other. So, like, last week he had High Life. This week the rep's like, I got a keg of Pabst. You can have that. And then because they have this guy's not his only account, so they have to spread this shit out. He can't sell everything to one person.
Right, yeah.
Or then everybody else is screwed. So I'm seeing that now. And that's kind of interesting that, these giant breweries are feeling the same crunch that the smaller ones are. Not that they'll,
not that they're in any financial danger, but it's just interesting that they're as affected as everybody else.
But the fact that we can't get Pabst in a keg half the month is kind of, you take that for granted. Most of the time, you're sitting around drinking a Pabst, you're not thinking about, well, shit, this might go away sometime. And it did. So they kicked the High Life keg, and we got Pabst back on today. So...
it's a good time in the beer industry when you're excited about a keg of High Life. I
know, right? Just drinking all the IPAs rather were so cheap. We were just drinking the hell out of those, and we'd fill growlers of the local IPAs at our local bar when we'd get takeout food, to keep them going through the shutdown.
Yeah.
So we're drinking all these big, heavy stouts and IPAs that they were able to get just constantly, and now it's just, I just want a fucking High Life or a Pabst or a cider or something refreshing and light.
Yeah, something different, because IPAs are good, but you can't drink them all the time.
I mean, even in a day, you're going to get palate fatigue. When you go on tasting tours, you get palate fatigue, and then everything tastes the same. Even if you're just drinking a Pilsner, all you're picking out is the hops, and it's just kind of blended together and muddy.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why when we would do, like, our big tastings, we would drink, like, the real unique stuff first before everything started to blend together.
Yeah.
And that was the good thing. That's actually the good thing about, like, the beer industry as an entity, is, man, we were able to get a hold of some crazy-ass stuff.
And now a lot of places aren't doing that stuff anymore.
No, they're not, because they just can't afford to.
A lot of places are doing more sours, but they're not doing them. I don't want to say not doing them right. They're just not doing them good, I guess.
Yeah.
I've had a handful of places like, oh, man, they're making sours now. That's awesome. And then you drink one, you're like, oh, well, they just wasted a whole bunch of time
Well, and that the problem with that is, just the art of making the sour beers. It takes a while.
Yeah.
Like, these aren't ones you can churn out in under a month like you can with, like, a Pilsner or an IPA, man. Sours need to sit for months at a time.
And some of those beers, you're putting stuff in that sour that you don't want in any other beer.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that where you're doing it is isolated and that you don't need to put anything in that equipment for a minute, because you got to make sure you've gotten all of the Brettanomyces out of it, or whatever else you're using to sour the beer,
Yeah, well, I think the big ones, the Brettanomyces and Lactobacillus.
Yeah.
It's the good bacteria, which is what causes it to be sour.
Right.
And we have both had beers where there's a difference between good sour and bad sour.
I mean, if you leave a Pabst open on your dining room table, it'll fucking sour, but it ain't good.
Yeah.
It's tart.
It's tart, but not in the way you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, and it'll make you sick.
Yeah, there's that too, because it's bad bacteria. Whereas the sour beers is purposeful bacteria put in a controlled environment, which makes it taste amazing.
I just thought about the time I did that, and it's making me, gag a little bit. Oh, it was 10 years ago, and it's still so fresh in my mind that I drank that rotten Pabst that is just sitting next to my fresh one.
The worst Pabst one I ever had, one time years ago, I went back to Pittsburgh, and I brought back a 30 rack of Pabst Ice.
Oh, man, that had been a minute ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. And I had it in the fridge for a week, and it still tasted hot. And I'm like, this is fucking sorcery. Literally, I'm drinking, and it's it tastes hot, but it's been in the fridge for over a week.
Oh, what was that malt liquor tasted the same, warm or cold? Laser.
Oh, God, Laser. Did we have a
Hurricane?
big malt liquor night or something?
I think Laser. It was either Laser or Hurricane. One of those. It didn't matter if it was warm or cold. It tasted exactly the same. I want to say it was Laser.
Laser was definitely one of that. Silver Thunder was one for me that was just
I didn't get that one.
Rancid.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we would get some crazy-ass malt liquors up here. Like Big Bear.
I don't see those good ones anymore. We get the basics.
Yeah, Old English.
I don't even get Country Club. I can't even find Country Club anymore. That was my go-to.
Oh, man, Country Club was a great malt liquor.
One time, I was playing Magic the Gathering with my buddy Jason. We were drinking 40s, and it was my turn. I was thinking about what I was doing, and while I'm thinking, I reach across my body and open my 40, and then I went to make a play, and I catch this fucking stink. I'm just like, you fucking asshole. I'm trying to think, and you're farting on me. He's like, I didn't fart on you. And then he looked at me, looked at my 40. I'm like, oh, yeah, I just opened a Country Club. I farted on myself without even thinking about it. My 40 farted in my face and confused me, and I didn't know what I was doing. I lost train of thought, and I misplayed the turn, and I lost the game. All because I could have waited. I didn't even drink the 40 until I made my turn. But for some reason, I thought maybe I should open it right now.
Yeah, you gotta let it. You gotta decant the 40, right?
Right. I mean, over quarantine, I didn't even buy one single 40. I was drinking those dollar IPAs and growlers. Plus, I could count on one hand the number of times I think I've ever filled a growler. Just taken a growler and had it filled. I had probably 5 or 6 that I'd bought in travels to bring beer home.
Yeah.
Now I have 15 growlers because everybody was making me fill growlers. Or making me take growlers to get fills in quarantine. So now I have all these growlers, and I'm thinking more maybe I should take a growler. Maybe instead of having 10 beers while I'm down there, I'll have a couple beers and my chicken wings, and then take a growler home and get drunker there,
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
I never think about it. You know what I'm saying? No one ever did. It's a local hole-in-the-wall bar.
Yeah.
No one ever thought, hey, let's fill a growler here.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of places you go to, you don't really think about it as a growler fill place.
Right.
You know, like the weirdest one I saw was the first time a couple years back when I was driving around up here and I saw fucking gas stations doing growler fills.
They put that was popular here for a minute. No, they're not really doing it anymore.
No, they definitely got rid of that because that was just a massive liability.
But even small like beer stores would put like 2 taps in by the register. Nobody's doing anything. So
that's weird how this is going to change a whole hell of a lot about pretty much everything, especially beer.
Right. What was the other? There was another bit about like a growler fill. Yeah, my local guy didn't even. He's like, I've had a to-go license. I never thought to use it. Like, you're telling me this whole fucking time we could have been doing this? But now Ohio also changed the rules when bars were allowed, or when restaurants were allowed to sell to-go food. They passed like an emergency rule that you could take 2 mixed drinks per food order home with you. So you could get to-go cocktails or beers. And now that it's over and you're allowed in bars for now, they're making it permanent. Plus, they're letting bars open. And this all came out of to let businesses kind of work more and get back on track. They're making permanent the rules for to-go and increasing it to the point where I could buy a bottle of shots and take it home. You're going to have to pay bar prices, but, you know, they're letting bars open till 4. They're letting here you have to have a Sunday liquor license in addition to your normal license to sell liquor on Sundays. It's beer and wine only with your normal license. They're doing away with that, so you can be open Sundays without the extra fee. They're overhauling how liquor is sold in this state to try and help restaurants and small businesses keep going. And they're looking into the future of if we do have to shut down again, they won't have to go through passing another temporary amendment to get to-go drinks okayed. So now it'll just always be there, and bars will have a little bit more of an option. So that's cool.
I like that. That's actually really cool, and I've never heard of the concept of to-go cocktails in a place outside of Las Vegas or New Orleans.
We didn't do it because it's just cheaper to make it at home anyhow. Like if you're just like, hey, give me 2 Jack and Cokes and a cheeseburger, you know, that's kind of, you're gonna pay what, $3.50, $4?
Oh, probably.
For that, and then you go home just with a bottle of cola and a well whiskey bottle. You make 50 of them. You know what I mean?
Imperial.
Yeah, Imperial and RC Cola. That's gonna cost you about 35 cents to make it. So,
and it'll be the worst 35 cents you ever spent.
Well, yeah, but that was the thing too. When we were doing those group phone calls or video chats, you know, as we're all sitting around the bar anyway, we're like, "Hey, shots! Like, you want to do shots? Let's do shots." And then someone has to buy a round. We just kept a bottle of Old Crow between the wife and I, and shot glasses in front of the laptop, and someone said shots. We just all pour shots, hold them up to the camera, and drink. And that didn't cost us what 175 of Old Crow in Ohio is $22.
Yeah, so, and basically after about 6 shots, you've already paid for it.
Yeah, and we're stupid and we'd get drunk. The heat in my house is radiant through the floor, so we'd sit the bottle on the floor.
Oops.
And then we have to drink heated fucking well whiskey.
Dude, and the only thing worse than well whiskey is hot well whiskey.
Yeah, you pick up the bottle for the first shot of the day, like, why is there condensation on the bottle? Oh, the furnace kicked on last night. So it's like, yeah, it's so fun.
Oh.
So fun. But yeah, we would end up getting super hammered, and no one had to drive home. No one's dropping half a paycheck.
Well, that's the best part of it, because you're having that camaraderie, because I can use big fancy words, the camaraderie, plus you're drinking, you're at home, the bathrooms are nicer, the music's better.
Yeah, we were able to, everybody coming out of this everyone I hang out with actually came out okay, because we weren't going out, we were just drinking cheap like that, we were able to save money. Our unemployment was hitting, and we weren't at the bar spending it like idiots, like we did 3-4 days a week. So, and even now that we're allowed to go to the bar, we might go once a week when we drive by and the lot's empty. But, you know, still, who wants to run that risk? And I'm not going one way or another. You can believe what you want.
Well, exactly. The thing is I would just rather not take the risk.
Yeah, and I'm not putting everybody else in danger because I feel like drinking in public. You know what I mean? I just go sit on my porch.
Well, exactly. Do some porch drinking, do some yard drinking. But, yeah, I mean, as of right now, especially with the spikes lately, it just doesn't seem like it's as worth the risk as it used to be.
No, I mean, just thinking about the things we would do in the bar, I mean, fired up on people and shaking hands, high fives, you know, hugging people before they leave the bar all at one time. Like, that's never going to happen again. People are just going to be too afraid of what's going on to do any of that sort of thing. I think my in-laws popped in randomly a couple weeks ago, and they were about to leave, and my father-in-law, without thinking, just kind of reached out and shook his hand. And after we did that, it was like, the hell? Like, that was the first hand I'd shaken in 4 months. You know what I mean? It was weird. Like,
yeah, because even though you don't do it,
all right, Ed, I'll see you next time. And it was just boom. Like,
yeah, it's still just a natural reaction. Like when somebody puts out their hand to you, you shake it.
Right. Yeah. And
there's that's the thing. And like, it's just the human condition. There's no way really around it.
Right.
You know, it's just a natural goodbye thing for two people. It's like, you know, have a handshake, have a hug.
It had been 4 months, but it was still something that you've been doing your whole life. So it was just like, all right, buddy, yeah, see you next time. And like, oh, geez. And then we had sanitizer or whatever. We were on my front porch, so it wasn't like, you know, licking our fingers.
And that's the thing. Like, now everything that we've been doing so naturally for our entire lives is now put into question as to whether or not we should continue to do it.
Yeah. And like we discussed in the movie episodes, movies are going to be weird. It's going to affect how people interact in film, out in bars, and that's all affecting beer too. People may not need as much. They're not going to be in bars as much.
Right, because now they're realizing that you can go to a liquor store, get a bottle for cheaper without... I mean, they've always kind of known, but there was still something about going out to the bar, but now things have changed that drastically.
Right. That
I think now, just through that, there's going to be a boom in liquor stores, beer stores, and probably cartoons, like we discussed in the... Did we discuss it on air in the movie thing, or was that off air?
I want to say we did it on one of those episodes on air.
Yeah, because, you know, you can record voiceover from your house.
Yeah. Oh, that was definitely on air, because we were joking about how every fucking human and their brother has a podcast these days.
That's right. You ain't kidding, man.
I know. So, it's really gonna change how we ingest alcohol.
Yeah, and it does make you wonder about the future of the bar as a whole. Like not like a restaurant, but just like a bar, like a watering hole.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, people are still gonna be dumb about this and go anyway. There's been nights where we've hit the local spot and there just been too many people for them to even, like, hey, you can't sit there, you can't do that. And it got a little out of hand, but it's the kind of spot where shit goes in waves. You know, you'll see people getting off of work to pop in for 2 beers.
Yeah.
So if you go in later in the day, it's, you know, you get there at 8:30, there's nobody. Or there's just us regulars and there's enough room at the bar for the 6 of us to sit there and be moved around. But every time someone gets up, bartenders around the bar, they wipe it down, wipe the seat down, you know, around the edge. They go do the doorknobs to the, you know, coming in and out, which looks tiring when there's a bunch of people in and out.
Well, it's got to be exhausting.
People going in and out to smoke, people leaving, people coming in. Every time someone touches that door, he's around the thing. So, you know, you got to be patient with these people too.
Well, and that's the thing. You can't really leave the door open because, like, if somebody walks by and starts fucking coughing, it's just going to travel right in.
Yeah, and it's been sweltering. Usually in the springtime, we missed the whole door open season. There's 2 doors. There's like around the corner of the bar. Like there's one on the front, one on the side. He'll bungee those open so you get a breeze through the bar, and it's nice. But we're totally out of that season right now. It's hot.
Yeah.
Everybody wants air conditioning, so.
Because air conditioning is a gift from the gods.
By the time we were allowed in, they were already on air conditioning season. So,
yeah.
And that's the thing too. Like, I don't have air conditioning at home, so on like really, really bad hot days, instead of sitting in the bedroom where we don't have a television, we would go to the bar where it was air conditioned until it was time to go to bed, and then we'd go into our air conditioned bedroom. Or they're right across the road from our power grid, on a separate power grid. So if we lose power, we could go to the bar and watch TV and be in air conditioning. And, that might not be a thing, because it would get crowded, because everybody on that side of town would end up in the bars on the other side of town.
Well, and that's the thing that also, when I would live in a place without air conditioning, if it got really hot, we would go see a 2-hour-long movie just to get 2 hours of air conditioning, or, go to the mall and just walk around because it was air conditioned. But now, malls I don't think are going to come back. Movie theaters, I don't know. They're going to be questionable.
Movie theaters here are opening today.
Well, they, with New York, we entered, I guess, Stage 4 a couple Fridays ago, which Stage 4 was supposed to include movie theaters and malls, but then they announced, no, movie theaters and malls are not part of Stage 4. So it doesn't look like movie theaters up here are going to be opening anytime soon.
We also, within 20 miles of my house, we have 4 drive-ins, and you can't get tickets. They're sold out through July.
Well, there aren't many drive-ins here anymore, but do you remember when you came up here to help me and Rob do that job out in Buffalo, and we were coming back, and there's that big drive-in theater, and the line to get in there was like a mile long?
Yeah.
And that was well before all this shit happened, so they've got to be doing gangbusters right now.
Right. And they're not even playing good movies. Like My Spy is the feature new film, but they're playing it with Knives Out, so I guess people are going to see Knives Out. And then one of the biggest theater around, that's right outside of Cleveland, did a Harry Potter marathon for 5 days, 2 movies a day, and they played those Fantastic Beast movies in the middle. My wife wanted to go, and we couldn't even get tickets to that. Nothing. So people are going to see movies just to get out of the house and see that shit. They're willing to see My Spy just to get out of the house. But starting today, Cinemark, we did discuss in a previous one, Cinemark's doing $5 older movies, and they block, when you buy seats, they block off 2 seats on either side.
I was just going to ask, how are they doing that? It's like, is it a reserved thing and then they just block it off?
Yeah, well, because I live in an actual city, we have really fancy movie theaters. It might not have made it to Rochester yet, but burn.
Oh,
but
burn.
I mean, it is Cleveland, so it is what it is. But all the Cinemark theaters have like big electric recliners. There's no normal seats.
Yeah, there's a couple theaters out here like that. They've got the recliners, and you got to reserve your seat.
Right. So when you reserve a seat, say I need 3 seats, I can get 3 seats together, and then as soon as I hit enter, it blocks off a seat on either side of my 3 seats. So another group can't sit directly next to me.
So basically, buying those 3 seats kills half of a row.
Right. So you're still going to get some distance, and they made masks mandatory. So there's that. I still don't see myself going to the movies for a minute, but especially since you get anything new, at some point you're going to be able to pay for it on Prime or Apple TV.
Right, exactly. And
now
they're all doing that on-demand stuff now.
And you just get I have a pretty big TV, so I have a really big TV. So it's like watching a movie in my house anyway, and I can drink the beer I had already paid for. So back to that as well. You're still saving money on beers that you already bought.
Well, exactly. And it's amazing how, when you actually think about it, how much of daily societal life is actually tied to beer.
I have a friend who, even just drinking, I have a friend who quit drinking She's a stand-up comedian, and through just being in comedy clubs and traveling, was drinking too much, decided to quit. And every time we go to hang out with her, it's like, what do you want to do? Like, well, we could go. Well, no, that's a bar. We could do. No, that's basically a bar too. Like, what do you do? Like, I don't. We're not. It's not like we're gonna go bowling and not have beers. It's not like we're gonna go mini golf.
You have a place you can mini golf out there?
What?
I said you have a mini golf place out there?
Tons of them. We're basically the Midwest.
That's true.
That's a pro sport in this area, man. People are on the tour. Yeah, there's a bunch of them, but you know, it's just remarkable that you can turn anything into drinking.
Oh God, yeah. You remember the old? Here's a good tie-in between beer and TV. You remember the Japanese version of Iron Chef?
Yep.
And how on the internet you could actually find Iron Chef drinking rules.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time he would say "Fukui-san, take a drink."
Yeah.
Like whenever Ota would bust in, like "Fukui-san, go ahead, Ota."
Yeah. The voiceover was great.
I don't know how many people have actually watched that show, but it is one of the greatest things ever.
Well, like, when food TV first came on, man, that was the way. When I first got cable back, oh shit, that was probably 98 or so, in my own apartment. My girlfriend at the time's mother didn't get the cooking channel, so we had to record Emerald all week. And then on Saturday morning, she would go to her mother's house and watch Emerald with her mother all day. And I just went and played with the fellas while, you know, she would watch fucking 6 hours of Emerald.
Bam!
I'd go hang out with my buddies, you know, be an idiot. And
yeah.
Then we had to read, you know, all week. I would watch them all week because, shit, everybody watched Emerald when he was on Food Network back in the day. So.
Everybody watched Emerald, but fucking...
Everything was a drinking game, too.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, you could... Even if you get a movie, you could turn it into a drinking game. We did that with this ridiculous Japanese movie called The Story of Ricky. Like, we turned it into a drinking game, like Drink for Gratuitous Violence, of which there was a lot because it was a Japanese horror movie.
Right.
And then Drink for bad dubbing, because that's the only way we could get it, was dubbed. So, like, instead of... The one line I always remember, because it always made you laugh as you were drinking, he wanted to say, since he was 7 years old, but the translation was, since I was 3 and 4 years old. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I could drink. And I think there might be a whole new rash of just people drinking at home to watch movies now, because, like, to wrap all the way back around, movie theaters are going to be a lot different now. Bars are going to be a lot different now. It's just a hell of a lot safer, and now people are realizing, with the safer thing, that it's a hell of a lot cheaper to drink at home.
Well, and with bars in, like, Arizona, Texas, Pennsylvania shutting down again, it's good that we all figured this shit out, you know, beforehand. So when we get locked down again, which the way people have been behaving is going to happen, even in Ohio, where we have done pretty well. We've been open since May 1st, and I mean, we're going up a little bit because people are stupid. It's mostly because there's like a beach resort on Lake Erie called Put in Bay. People up there are just being stupid. And then going back out through the state again.
Yeah.
You know, at least we have a system in place. So we can go buy some booze and beers and just sit and chat with our buddies on YouTube, on Facebook.
I mean, if you're actually looking for a sort of show to turn into a drinking game, have you seen the new cartoon version of Harley Quinn?
No.
It is ridiculously hilarious.
Who does? Is Tara Strong still doing Harley Quinn?
No, it's Kaylee Cuoco is Harley Quinn.
I can dig it.
She's doing the voice of Harley Quinn. Lake Bell is the voice of Poison Ivy. Alan, I never pronounce his name right. Alan Tudyk?
Tudyk.
Yeah, he does a shitload of voices. He does the Joker.
Woo! Oh man, you don't realize there's a cut on your hand and you dump rubbing alcohol on them because you don't have any hand sanitizer handy.
Woo!
Waha!
Well, that was the one time I realized when I went to a store that they weren't actually using hand sanitizer because I had an open cut on my hand and I put it on there and it didn't burn.
Yeah.
So when that happened,
I just dumped 90% rubbing alcohol on my hands.
Yeah.
And I got cut by a tree branch yesterday. Didn't realize it was there until just now. Hello. So anyway, Alan Tudyk does who?
He does the Joker. He does. Oh God, I'm gonna have to look it up. Hang on a minute. Vamp for a minute. I gotta look it up.
I love Alan Tudyk. He was Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball.
Yeah, Wash and Firefly.
I didn't watch that, but I've seen that. And he was Bruce Wayne's cousin in what the hell was that? Unpowered? No.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the damn name of it.
Powerless.
Yeah. Well,
he was so good. That show was funny. That was a travesty that got canceled. But.
All right, you got. He does Clayface, the Joker, Calendar Man, Dr. Trap, and the Condiment King.
So basically, he's the Joker.
What's that?
So basically, he's the Joker.
Yeah, basically. Although Clayface has a huge role in the show, and the best part of it is they made Bane talk like people making fun of Bane. You know, with the voice like this.
Oh, that's good.
That's how Bane talks, and he's basically the Legion of Doom's bitch. It is ridiculously funny. It is insanely violent. The language is out of control.
I'm still trying to get through Clone Wars.
Oh. But
we're still working on that.
Now, this one is just... It's goddamn phenomenal. Like, Commissioner Gordon is like a drunk who's trying to save his marriage, and he thinks Batman is his friend, and he shines the bat signal, so Batman comes so he can just talk to him about his failing marriage. Oh, God. And it's actually Christopher Maloney is the commissioner, and Diedrich Bader plays Batman, and he does a hell of a job as Batman.
Nice.
You could easily turn that one into a drinking game. To bring it back to the original topic, look at us. Seamless.
Yep.
Seamless and even more awesome.
Even more awesome, right. Too true.
Or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there
probably
you go.
More something like that.
What's up?
So probably more along the lines of something like that. But
yeah. Well, that's how we roll.
Nor there.
But there you go. So that is episode 1 of whatever the hell I want to call this, beer talk or booze talk or whatever we're going to do. We'll. I got an idea for future episodes. We could talk, actually, like booze trips, different drinks. We could do a whole. I'm thinking at some point we should do a whole hour just on cocktails.
Yeah, we did. The quarantine put us into the cocktail mixing again because you had the free time. Why not make a fancy drink?
Right, exactly. So we could do a whole episode just on cocktails.
There's a website called, or not a web. Well, he does have a website with all his recipes, but a YouTube channel called Cocktail Chemistry.
Oh, I know that guy. He's good.
Yeah, he's pretty funny, and the drinks are pretty remarkable.
Plus, we went through that phase a few years ago when we would buy all those cocktail recipe books.
And equipment. Like, he uses a Lewis bag every once in a while, and you have one, and I've never seen you use it. So.
It's true, but, now's the time for busting out all the accoutrement, as it were.
Accoutrement? Yeah.
What do you want to leave the listeners with this week?
Drink beer when you can. Be nice to bartenders. They're doing their best.
Exactly, man. Tip your bartender because they're working in an environment that they probably don't want to be working in right now.
Yeah. If you don't wear a mask, you're a jerk, but don't yell at someone who tells you to put one on. Just go somewhere else, man. It's not that big a deal.
Exactly. And I think we can sum up the entirety of life as just don't be mean.
Yeah.
but people seem to have a problem with that. Anyways, I guess that'll wrap it up for me and Opie. We will see you next time for some more random adventures and, hell, probably some more bar talk in the future. Thanks, bud.
All right, no problem.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
All right, see you.